You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shemaiah Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shemaiah Reed.
Welcome back to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today, and man, we have another show lined up for you guys and ladies, and we have our special guest. His name is Wegner. He is a pastor, teacher, and chaplain to young adults at Faith Bible Church in Woodlands, Texas. Yes, he's from my neck of the woods, Texas, in the house, in the studio today.
That's
First
right.
of all, I want to say to you, thank you for being on the show. How you doing right now, man?
Well, thank you, Shemaiah. I'm very happy to be here. Happy to tell the story.
Well, I can't wait to talk about your book. Also, you are the author of Weight of the Weight. And man, if you thought that's heavy, just wait until we get deeper into this whole book. You have something that I think people are going to really appreciate with learning about God's purpose. But in your book is exploring God's unexpected purpose in a person's life when they are going through some of the hardest seasons. And we all know those times are not easy and not fun, but there's always meaning in that pain. So I just want to do you justice and say, first of all, foremost, kind of share with us what inspires you to start writing this project before you got it out into the world.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I wasn't looking to write a book at all. There are a couple of threads in my story that go back several years. The first one starts with my wife's battle with breast cancer, which started 10 years ago. And then it metastasized about 4 years ago now. And at the same time, I was going through some challenging circumstances at work, problems with the boss. You know, it happens with everybody, you know. And so I pulled a group of guys around me to kind of keep me accountable for my attitudes, my perspective, kind of process, you know, what I was going through. Mostly I'd send emails on a weekly basis, sometimes on a daily basis, you know, depending on how things were happening and keeping them informed. And one day, one of them said to me, he says, you know, Sam, I really look forward to reading your emails. He's not just because I'm interested to know what's going on and how I can pray for you. He says, but I just really enjoy reading them. I like how you write. You're a writer. You should write. And I said, nah, I'm not a writer. I just vomit on paper. That's all I do. And he goes, no, you've got an engaging style. He said, so you should write. Well, I ended up losing my job and found myself with some time on my hands. And I said, well, okay, if I'm a writer, I guess I'll write. And so I wrote the book, and that's how it came to be.
Chapter 1, you are exploring understanding hope.
Yep.
And kind of walk the audience through how you explain from a biblical lens hope for someone who feels like it's failed them.
Right. Yeah, I thought I knew what hope was when I got into all these different circumstances, and but then when, particularly when my wife's metastatic diagnosis hit, it really rocked my world, and it didn't feel to me like my hope mattered. And I could give you the dictionary definitions and all that kind of thing, but it wasn't real. You know, it wasn't making a difference in the way I viewed and talked and acted in my life. So I went to the Bible and started digging in some more, and I discovered in there that it's something that I didn't expect to see. Where it started was with the relationship between hope and waiting. And God showed me that my problem wasn't so much with all the bad stuff that was going on in my life, but it was waiting for a resolution to those things. I was prepared for, my wife to die from her disease. But what I was struggling with was how long it was taking to get there. So I had to, what that did was help me focus on the fact that I needed to change my perspective on hope and on waiting, which ultimately means that I needed to change my perspective about God himself. And so today when somebody asks me, what is hope? I say it's confidence in the unseen reality that is God, in his character and in his promises. And being convinced that when bad things come into my life, he's not there trying to get me. You know what I'm saying? He's not trying to get back at me for something that I did. He's not trying to make me squirm just because he likes to see people squirm. He is doing it purposefully to create something inside of me. And that if I change my focus and my attitude towards my circumstances, then I can start to see what it is he's trying to accomplish in my life.
Yeah, the waiting game is always something that we have to play in this life of ours. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to chapters in their life where they didn't know, okay, what's next, because the surprise I got just moments ago, I don't even know how to think right now. And I think a lot of people get to those places in life where they don't know what's coming next, and they don't know if even God is good. And I say that not to get a lot of emails, but because you actually talk about this in your chapter 2, Redefining Good. So for our audience, kind of touch on those seasons of waiting, if you will, and how that often expose our assumptions of how we feel about God.
Yeah, the fundamental premise of this whole change in my philosophy and perspective on things was rooted in that singular concept that God is good. I ran across a little verse in the middle of Psalm 119, right smack dab in the middle of the Bible, Psalm 119, from verse 75 from verse 65 onward to 72. In there, verse 68, it says, "You are good and do good. Teach me your statutes." It's just a simple statement. You are good and you do good, speaking of God. And I came to realize that if God isn't good, then he's not God. By definition, he has to be good. Because if he's not good, that means that there's something better. And it doesn't really matter whose standard or what standard you're looking for to establish what's good or bad. But if God isn't good, that means at least in some part he's bad or worse than something else, which means that there's a standard that is better than he is. So that very quickly becomes a cyclical kind of thought process. So the only conclusion is that God has to be good. And the Bible comes right out and says that in multiple places. You are good. And here it also says, and you did good. So the way I started expressing that was, God is good because that's all he can be. And he does good because that's all he can do. So then when I look at the circumstances in my life, one of two things is true. Either God did it or somebody else did it. It could be me, could be somebody else, could be just the way things happen in the world. But if God did it, it's good. So if God brought cancer into my wife's life, then that's good, even if I don't like it. And if he caused me to lose my job, and be out of work for 2 years, then that's good, even though I don't like it. If it's genuinely bad, and there are a lot of things in this world that are, without a doubt, evil, bad, not good, well, then God doesn't do those things. So that radically transformed my perspective on my waiting. I despise waiting. I hate waiting for anything. I hate standing in lines. I hate driving in traffic that's backed up. All those type of things. And I hate waiting for him to do stuff in my life and to resolve situations that are out of my control. But I had to come to grips with the fact that even if those things may be unpleasant to me, if he brought them into my life, then they're good. And if he didn't bring them into my life, then he is bringing his goodness to those situations with me, in support of me. I'm not, no matter what's going on, I'm not fighting him on this, right? We're going through this together. And I really began to appreciate the different aspects of the circumstances that I was in, because I was no longer struggling with God over the whys and the wherefores and the why me's in those type of situations, because I wasn't challenging why I was there in the first place. I was just now trying to figure out how to live in it now that I was.
Once again, this is Refocused Radio, watching us online, talking to our guest today, Sam Wegner. Get his copy of the book. It is The Weight of the Wait. And speaking of waiting, in chapter 4, you also go over why God makes us wait. So we've been discussing about, chapter 3, understanding waiting, but switching gears a little bit. Sometimes we have seasons of delay.
Mm-hmm.
And man, you talking about waiting in line, being in traffic in San Antonio. Oh man, I love the city, but it can be crazy at rush hour. I mean, rush hour is not going to be rushing home.
No.
A lot of times it's going to be playing your favorite album, not a song. It might be your album you're going to be playing as you're
listening to your favorite podcast, maybe.
That too. So, explain how you kind of go deeper in chapter 4 with seasons of delay that sometimes we face.
Yeah, that was really the turning point for me, was understanding that waiting isn't just something that happens to us. It's something that God intentionally built into the universe. When he created the world, the first thing, you go to any kid in Sunday school and they'll tell you, what did God create on day 1? He said, well, he created light. Yeah, that's true. But he also created something else. He created day 1, which implies day 2. He created time. And waiting is inherent in the nature of time. We just waited a couple of seconds for me to say something, right? Time passes. And there's nothing that we can do to escape that. For all the science fiction and all the imagination that we've come up with, we still can't get out of this whole thing about time. And God created time. Well, I started asking myself, why was that so important? Why did he make it this way? And in the book, I talk about the connection of several relatively well-known passages that kind of got this, that made this clear in my mind. It starts in Romans 8, where Paul says that that hope that is not seen, things that are seen are not hope, right? For what a man hopes, when a man sees, why does he yet hope for it? But if we hope for what we do not see, then with perseverance, we eagerly wait for it. And I said, oh, okay. Waiting and hope are connected. Well, you flip over to Hebrews 11, a very famous passage there, that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So hope is a component of faith. And, you take hope and you add substance to it, you add action to it, and that's what faith is. A couple verses later, in Hebrews 11, verse 6, it says that without faith, it's impossible to please God. So, waiting is connected to hope. Hope is a component of faith. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. That means that it's impossible to please God without waiting.
Yeah.
And waiting is a product of time. So God created time so that we would have to wait.
Yep.
We can't do anything but. It's inescapable. Why? Because waiting is necessary for hope, and hope is a component of faith, and faith is what it takes to please God, and He wanted us to please Him. He wanted us to have that relationship with Him. He wanted us to have a dependency upon Him, and so He created the universe literally from day one so that that's what we would do. That's pretty mind-blowing to me.
Without time of, I'm just kind of flow with this right now, without understanding what it takes to wait and the time that it takes for you to wait, if we are not careful, we prematurely try to escape where He's planted us. Because He plants us where He wants us to be, not necessarily where we want to be, but where He says, no, I want you there. So you're going to have to just trust me whether you like to or not, because you don't see what I see. You don't see the bigger picture because you can't really see into the future and predict the future. But if you understand that I am guiding you, right? I'm not just throwing you out there in the woods and say, good luck, buddy. It's more like I'm guiding you, and if you listen to me, it's going to work. It's going to work okay. If you don't listen to me, it's almost guaranteed that it's not going to be okay.
Yeah, and He wanted us to have that dependent relationship on Him. And we take a look at those things and, man, I don't want to be dependent on God or anybody else, right? I want to do me, right? I want to be dependent on me. And that really strikes at the heart of the whole conversation. And it really radicalized my perspective when I realized that that's fundamentally what I was struggling with. Because waiting is all about control and who has it. And if I'm waiting, I'm not in control, right? When you're standing behind the lady in the checkout line at the grocery store who's got a bag full of coupons, and she's got a month's worth of groceries on the belt, and the poor cashier is having to stand there and verify that every coupon is legit and it's not expired and it applies to what she has in her basket and all that kind of stuff. You're just standing there, and there's nothing you can do to make it go any faster, right? There have been times when I've been tempted to say, you know what, lady? Forget the coupons. I will pay for your groceries at full price just so you can get out of here, right? Because I don't want to wait. Why? Because I really have something better to get to? No. I just don't like the fact of feeling trapped behind her in line, right? And, even when you go to an amusement park and you pay to get into the fast lane, right? You're still going to wait. There's still lines. The reason that they're shorter is because not everybody pays to stand in that line. And but you still, when you get there, you don't have control over when you get to go next. And that's what really irritates us about waiting. And so what I have found is when I understand that the intent of a good God is for him to be dependent on me, or for me to be dependent on him, then I don't have to question or wonder about that dependency. I don't have to chafe underneath of it because he's good. He's perfectly good. He cannot do evil. Just as it's impossible for God to lie, it's impossible for him to do anything bad. So when he's in control, he can't screw it up. When I'm in control, I screw it up all the time.
Yeah, that's man everywhere.
And so what I have to do is just understand that it's not just the way that he designed things to be, it's actually the best way to live. And it completely changed my perspective on everything that was going on in my life.
And in chapter 6, you talk about waiting well. And people, I'll throw myself in the ring and raise both hands and say, how many times have we got impatient? If we just be honest and truthful, it's not one person. Well, maybe I had to do a disclaimer because you can't say absolutes in radio. But for the most part, we all have fallen short. And so we all have come to a time where we have been impatient, whether it's a grocery line or if it's someone driving in front of us. And we just like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? You know? I think God does that with us sometimes.
Oh, he does it with us all the time.
He says, what are you doing? You're not listening. I'm trying to help you.
It's kind of funny. We know how to do this with our children, right? And we understand that, when you've got a 2-year-old that's throwing a tantrum because you told them no, or because you told them they had to wait, it's not because you were being mean or ugly to them. It's because you know something they don't know. And you see something that they don't see.
Yeah.
And what they think they want is not really what's good for them. And we accept that when we're thinking about our own children and our role as parents. But for some reason, we chafe at it when we think about God doing that towards us. And so, but the good news is that this whole process of waiting, I do believe it's a discipline. It's something that we can get better at. And one of the things I talk about in the book is about the waiting wheel and the cyclical nature of this entire process. And it was fascinating to me when I saw it unfold in Scripture. It was even more fascinating when I really came to grips with the fact that he understands that we're not good at it.
Yeah.
He builds, one of the other things I talk about with regards to time is that infers repetition and these repeated cycles that we go through with time, the months, the seasons, the years, all those type of things. A God who built the universe this way understands that this is cyclical, that you're not good at it when you start. But as you develop the skill and the discipline of waiting, which is retraining and refocusing your attitude and your attention and your priorities, you get better at it. And it does become easier. And I've discovered that there are so many different levels to it. Just like a good video game, You level up as you go through the game, and you acquire more skills and abilities. And yeah, the monsters are bigger and the challenges are harder, but if the game's designed well, you're equipped to handle them, and you still continue to grow your character throughout them. Well, God's a pretty good game designer, I think.
Yeah, this life game is amazing.
This game of life, it's pretty well put together, right? But he understands and he recognizes that we have to go through the cycles. So he expects it. He expects us to struggle with it and to wrestle with it. And he wants us to. In fact, I think even at the beginning of this year, I felt him stirring some things up inside of me and bringing some things to light that I did not like about myself. And it was his way of saying, you know what, Sam, it's time to get back to work, right? There's some other stuff that we need to do. There's some other things that we need to fix here. And so, he's not doing that to beat me down. He's doing it to build me up. And just understanding that that's his approach to the whole thing really makes a difference in how you view the challenging circumstances that you find yourself in.
Once again, this is on Refocused Radio and watching us online. Talking to our guest today, Sam Wegner. Get a copy of his book, The Weight of Weight. And I want to say this one thing. I'm going to give you the floor real fast. And that is, in all that we've talked about, God doesn't move at the speed we tell him. Because life has a funny way to sit us down. And sometimes that tension is him trying to get our attention.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That doesn't change. I'll just let everybody know right up front. That aspect doesn't change. What does change is your comfort level with that process. And I'll just tell you, life in and of itself is hard enough without also kicking and screaming at the process. And I found that that's where I was making things much more difficult on myself than what they needed to be, because I was resisting the process that was necessary to get me through all those things. So there you go.
At that, we will say to our audience, make sure you get a copy of his book, The Weight of Weight. And man, Sam, I want to say thank you for your time. We got fly out time, but if you have one last thing you want to say to our audience, what would you want to say to them right now?
I would say to them, please visit my website, samwegner.com. You can find links to where you can get the book, and it's available in paper, in digital form, and in audiobook, which I narrated myself. There's also my blog where I post periodically about topics on waiting and just working through different things. There's also a contact form. I would love to hear your story. So feel free to drop me a note, whether you agree with me or not, whether you want to ask a question, whether you just want to tell me what your story is. I would love to hear from you and to help if I can.
And with that, we'll say to Sam, thank you again for your time.